Security work is usually described like a war room: alarms, screens, and a crowd talking at once. OpenAI's new Daybreak program suggests a quieter model. Give approved defenders stronger AI, narrow the scope, log the work, and keep humans responsible for what happens next. Daybreak now has blue and red access. Blue uses frontier general models such as GPT 5.6, Sol for defensive work, including vulnerability discovery, secure code review, malware analysis, incident response, and patch validation. Red adds purpose-trained cyber models for authorized research, exploit validation, and security testing. Its new model is GPT-5.6-Cyber. This is not a consumer product and not a tool I can hands-on test. Access requires approval, identity checks, account security, monitoring, use restrictions, and legal attestations. So this is a documentation-first review of the operating model. For a quiet defender, the promise is not hacking alone. It is replacing some triage queues and status meetings with bounded, inspectable investigation. My early verdict? Powerful for qualified defenders, irrelevant for everyone else, and only as safe as the room built around it. The most revealing number is not a benchmark score. OpenAI says GPT-5.6-Cyber completed 95% of an internal set of advanced cyber requests, compared with 1.5% for regular GPT, 5.6% Sol, and 2% for Sol under Daybreak Blue. The requests cover areas such as exploit chain development, authentication bypass, and privilege escalation. That gap exists because the cyber model is trained to reduce refusals for authorized dual-use work. OpenAI also reports that the model helped researchers find 2 previously unknown V8 vulnerabilities that could be chained, and Google fixed one as CVE-2026-15903. The company says it also found at least 5 issues in a mobile operating system, 3 critical database vulnerabilities, and more than 400 kernel privilege escalation issues, with disclosure and remediation still underway. Those are OpenAI's claims, not an independent comparison. The limits matter. GPT-5.6-Cyber produced shorter, weaker reports than Sol on one internal discovery and writing evaluation. Sol also performed better and used tokens more efficiently on a harder exploit benchmark at the standard 300-turn limit. Specialized does not mean universally better. It means a different refusal boundary and a narrower job. A sensible solo defender workflow starts with Daybreak Blue, which OpenAI recommends for most defenders. First, define one authorized asset, repository, or incident. Write down what systems are in scope, what actions are allowed, and where the model must stop. Second, remove production credentials and place the work in an isolated environment without sensitive systems or open internet access. Third, ask for evidence before conclusions. Affected versions, reproduction conditions, confidence, logs, and a remediation hypothesis. Fourth, keep elevated actions behind review. OpenAI says Codex users in Daybreak should use auto-review mode, which evaluates higher permission actions and can block destructive requests. Fifth, validate every finding with a human practitioner and the software owner before disclosure or patching. Finally, preserve the prompt, tool calls, outputs, diff, and decision record. That workflow replaces the loudest part of incident response: repeated context handoffs, people rediscovering the same evidence, and meetings held because nobody trusts the trail. The introvert advantage is sustained attention. A model can search broadly while one practitioner stays with the thread. But asynchronous does not mean unsupervised. It means the work can proceed without a room full of narration because scope, evidence, and review are explicit. The safety design is the product here. OpenAI says Daybreak accounts are controlled through identity verification, monitoring, approved use restrictions, and legal attestations. Individual accounts must use hardware security keys beginning September 1st. The company recommends sandboxes, tested isolation boundaries, narrow permission profiles, tool call review, and extra oversight for higher-risk workflows. Those controls are not bureaucracy around the model. They are what makes access defensible. Red is for advanced vulnerability research, exploit development, and red teaming. Blue is the starting point for most people. That distinction also exposes the uncomfortable truth. The same reduction in refusals that helps a researcher validate a flaw can help an attacker move faster. OpenAI assessed GPT-5.6-Cyber at high cybersecurity capability, but below its critical threshold, and says a fuller system card will come later. I would not adopt any cyber agent based only on completion rates. I would ask who can invoke it, what it can reach, what is logged, who reviews findings, how false positives are handled, and whether actions can be stopped. A quiet workflow is not a secret workflow. The evidence trail should be clearer precisely because fewer people are watching live. Worth investigating if you are an approved security practitioner drowning in code review, vulnerability triage, incident analysis, or patch validation. Start with blue, one authorized target, and a deliberately boring test. Wait if your organization cannot define ownership, isolation, disclosure, and review. Stronger reasoning will accelerate confusion too. Skip it if you are simply curious about offensive capability. Daybreak is controlled access for legitimate work, not a clever subscription upgrade. The strongest introvert lesson is broader than cybersecurity. When AI becomes more capable, the valuable skill is no longer hovering over every step. It is designing the boundary, what the agent can see, what it can do, what evidence it must return, and which action still needs a human. OpenAI's own results show why. The specialized model answered far more advanced requests, yet it was not best at every task and could write weaker reports. Capability and judgment remain separate. Give a qualified defender machine speed investigation, then keep authorization, validation, disclosure, and consequence human. The future security team may be smaller and quieter. It should also be more explicit. Subscribe for AI workflows that replace coordination noise without deleting responsibility.